Welcome back to the conversations where we discover again and again where there's a will, there's a way, and where we learn how entrepreneurs around the world are creating a great life for everyone in the company. Well, welcome to another session of Where There's a Will, There's a Way. And remember that the point of this whole conversation that we have every week is to take this ideal life that we've identified with 5 things: doing what you love doing, with people that you love, knowing that you're making a great contribution, making the world a better place, you're being compensated appropriately, and finally, you have plenty of time left over for your other passions and your family. We are learning and talking and encouraging each other to take this all the way down to the entire organization so that everyone has the opportunity to live this ideal life. And today, we have a great guest, Alex Freytag from Columbus, Ohio. Now, he is not only an implementer, he is an expert implementer of EOS. And Alex has done some great work, and we're going to talk a little bit about how Alex's journey in EOS, what that's been like, and then we're going to talk about how compensation can help with this ideal life. So welcome, Alex.
Thank you, Will. It's great. Great introduction. Appreciate that.
So Alex, tell us a little bit about your EOS journey.
Yes. So you've heard the phrase overnight success in 26 years or X number of years, same kind of thing. Always learning. And probably, entrepreneur since the age of 17, but I'll tell you quite candidly, I didn't know I was an entrepreneur until I was about 40, which is kind of sad. So it was a struggle through those first 23 years, but started, I had an art knack. And so I made some T-shirts that were pretty cool and had James Dean on them, and people were buying them, and I was going to schools and selling them in there. And it was a great project for me. And, but went to college, psychology major, which kind of plays a role now, certainly, on what we do. But I started ProfitWorks, my sort of first go-around of ProfitWorks in 1996 with my brother. And we had, our dad was a huge influence for us and really helped us think about, he was on boards of companies, especially around Central Ohio, and, small family-run businesses and so forth. And what he noticed was that most employees have no idea what profit is or how small it really is, how precious it is. And so he thought there might be a business idea around helping employees kind of see the bigger picture of how a company makes money. And so we dug into that, started doing surveys of employees, and most employees were responding to the surveys. They would guess profit at about 30 to 50% of revenues. And so we thought,
right.
This is going to be very easy to sell this service of teaching employees about business and finance. So it was not easy. At that time, in the mid 90s, late 90s, Jack Stack had come out. Great Game of Business was humming, but it was pretty nichey. And sharing financials with employees was very bleeding edge. And so it was difficult sale. But over the years, it evolved. And I joined a company called Ownership Thinking. And that visionary, who was in Denver, a great guy, had it pulled out of Great Game of Business and had his own little kind of model. And so we set about designing incentive plans and teaching employees about business and finance, and really trying to get the culture of engagement and culture of business literacy going for many years. And he wrote a book called Ownership Thinking, which did very well, created a huge amount of demand for us, hired more ownership thinking implementers. And in about 2011, one of my ownership thinking clients handed me Traction. And I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. He said, it's the only book you need. And I put it on the shelf like a lot of visionaries do. And I didn't read it. And about beginning of 12, I read Get a Grip. That was the first book I read, and I loved it. I had a glossary, I had notes, and so I said, I'm going to be an implementer. So first we tried to self-implement and did not work. And in 13, I went to boot camp, and I decided I would do ownership thinking and EOS and just, kind of do both. And really realized that EOS had this just wonderful impact on companies. So I put my incentive plan, design expertise, and the business literacy, all that kind of stuff on the side, and just went all in on EOS for about 7 years. And then when the pandemic hit, I was like, I got all this stuff going on in my head, and I want to get this out. So wrote ProfitWorks, got it out of my head, and launched it in October of 20. And it's about unraveling the complexity of incentive plans, because it comes up in our sessions, our EOS sessions all the time, and having some kind of a resource for entrepreneurial clients to answer a lot of these questions and try not to make it too complex. And then also bringing in the importance of that financial literacy was really important to me, just from my history. And so we kind of baked that in there, and that's what we're doing today. So I do like 95% EOS, but I've got an integrator now for ProfitWorks, and it's humming along and helping a lot of people, adding a lot of value.
Well, and that really is what we as EOS implementers aim at, isn't it? It's to really help businesses thrive. Yeah. And what I'm coming to understand is that when I'm talking to somebody or when I'm doing anything, I'm really asking 3 questions. Is this going to help this company increase their profit?
Yeah.
Is it going to help them? Is it going to help them be successful? And finally, is it going to make them happy? That's
right. That's exactly right.
And so one of the things that I'm excited about, just reading through ProfitWorks and using with my clients is right now we're getting this, I don't know whether we're still ramping up or whether we're on the other side of the curve coming down, but a lot of people coming out of COVID began to examine their option.
Yeah.
Do I have to live here? Do I have to do this kind of work? How do I supply resources for my family and do something that I really love doing?
Yeah.
And that means that businesses as well have to change what they're doing, and they have to begin reexamining how we are retaining the great people that we already have employed, and how we attract and onboard new people, and how do we even attract people who are thinking they're going to move to the woods and at least have one connection via the internet, but still going to be working.
Yeah.
How does compensation, this whole area of compensation, how can businesses begin to see that as tools that they can use to retain their great people and attract new great people?
Oh, it's probably an endless question from the standpoint of like no perfect solution for this, because different people respond to compensation or this kind of incentive in different ways. And some people put a lot of weight on comp. And I mean, I think a lot of people want to be paid for the value they're adding. And then others, want to be in a great place to work and not trying to be the boss and move up the accountability chart and all that. So it's not one size is going to fit all, but from within that compensation sort of umbrella, I'm kind of in this incentive plan world and looking at it. And I would sort of think about it from there's extrinsic sort of rewards like money and gifts and profit sharing or whatever that might be, and then there's intrinsic. And so if you talk about employee retention and you talk about attraction and best places to work, these types of trends, the companies that are able to balance those rewards for their workforce are the ones that tend to be the most successful from a profitability standpoint, from a growth standpoint, from just the surveys. And so I put compensation and profit sharing and incentive plans, those kind of things in that extrinsic bucket. So, but it's not the only thing. In my experience, again, hundreds of companies doing this since 96 and seeing so many different shapes and sizes, the companies that are able to really look at the whole person and look at the intrinsic rewards. And these are things like having a great boss, right? Somebody who cares about your growth, coaching you up, having fun at work. So one of the things we talk about is gamifying rocks and then having some kind of fun company celebration at the end. Certainly that can drive profitability on a financial side, but it balances with this sort of social kind of connection or collaboration with a team of folks who are driving toward the same vision. And so the balance of intrinsic, extrinsic is an art form, I think. And the companies that really focus on both of those tend to be more successful. And there are a lot more pieces to the intrinsic part as well.
And it really moves from so many times I heard managers coming to me and saying, how do I get my people to do what I tell them to do? It moves from how do I get my needs met to how do I hear what they want or need, and how do I help them get it? How do I help them develop? How do I help them to express their opinions? How do I help them become part of this organization so they really know they belong here? And now, to what extent does that articulation, creating that environment, that context for people to be comfortable sharing what they really want, and then being supported to get what they really want, how does that fit into ProfitWorks?
Yeah, it's great. The companies that are really like the best companies that I've seen have three general characteristics. And one is that they really care. They care about each other. So you think about core values, and you think about a share, like a VTO that's shared frequently with the entire company on a state of the company meeting. They care about their products and their services being right. They care about their processes. They care about their customers, and they care about their vendors. There's this element of like this love, let's call it. And they have high expectations of performance, which is the second characteristic. These high expectations of performance don't come from the top down, though, Will. And what I see in the best companies is it's all throughout the organization. You have departments and folks who are really striving to be the best in what they're doing. And so high expectations of performance sort of show themselves in the book talks a little bit about this. The amount of pressure in an organization is directly correlated to performance. And so companies that don't apply any pressure in the organization, no standards of performance, no expectations, no core values, no measurables, no scorecards, no VTO, no 10-year target, so forth, tend to have lower levels of performance. And the companies that sort of turn that dial up on those expectations, and we'll call it pressure or anxiety, I call it tension in the book, to a point, create higher levels of performance. Now, companies can go too far on that. So if you create a culture of fear where everybody's running around worrying about getting yelled at or fired or whatever, the performance drops back down. So it's a bell curve. It's called the Yerkes-Dodson curve from a long time ago. It's a natural law. And so those high expectations of performance become that really important sort of critical. I can care about everything around the company and people and products and services. And I have high expectations of performance as a company, not just the leadership team. And the third piece is these great companies have fun. And my sort of sense is that care plus high expectations equals fun, because it's more fun to be part of a winning team. It's intrinsically valuable. If you think about baseball or basketball or any team sport, same thing in a business. It is more fun to be winning. And so winning in this case, of course, is growth and profitability, good cash flow, all those pieces, great customer testimonials and referrals and all that.
Well, hitting your goals, right?
Yeah. It really is. There's
hitting your goals
there. And it's chemically, I was thinking about writing a book on this, but I don't know if it'd lose a lot of folks, but it's fascinating to me because inside our brains, there's chemical reactions to extrinsic rewards, and there's other different chemicals that are happening with intrinsic, that feeling of connection and satisfaction and trust. It's got oxytocin and dopamine being positive chemicals that flow. And it's pretty cool. I haven't done the research, but there are some great books on that. So.
Well, let me suggest that Facebook has already done all that research for you, and they've engineered it so that we're getting all that that dopamine hit every time we get a like.
Every time. It's great.
I'm so aware of that distraction that social media is for us, because they've literally engineered a path for us to have those dopamine hits.
Oh yeah. It's I suppose on one side it's a pretty sad state because it can really pull your eye off the ball, but on the other, we're learning a lot about ourselves in the process. Perhaps the emotional intelligence offsets the distraction.
Well, and then also, I think in business we can learn from this that it's the engineers who put together. They didn't manipulate us. They didn't do something horrible. What they simply did was took took human experience, human psychology, and said, we can use this.
Yeah.
I think we could do the same thing in business. And that's what I find so fascinating with teaching managers, that their task is to find out what people want and help them get it.
Yeah.
Because that's where the dopamine comes from. I got what I wanted.
Yeah, that's right. And those conversations, if you think about LMA, lead, manage, hold people accountable, those conversations, I know a lot of leaders are not prioritizing. And they're doing their day job. And if you think about the accountability chart bullets, the LMA is first one. That's got to be number one, because in those one-to-ones, those where you're slowing down, you're taking time to really dig into what your direct report is striving for. If you can help them get that, boy, you've got a employee for life. It's so fulfilling to have a boss that really cares about them. And so I really see LMA, and this sort of ties into my feeling about business literacy, is that I think it's the job of anybody that has LMA to really understand how does the company work, just on a basic level.
Yes.
You don't have to be an accountant, but like, sales and costs and profit and those kinds of things, and cash and the difference. And so that the conduit, or the connection, the link between the leadership team and all the folks who are doing the hard work in the business can be those leaders, and they have to be champions for profit, champions for business literacy, not just for themselves, but further out in the organization. And it is a thing that people on leadership teams sometimes have not been exposed to basic finance and business literacy, and so they maybe feel like imposter syndrome, or kind of fake it till I make it. So, but let's start where we need to start, and then cascade that literacy throughout the organization. I think it makes everybody a better player on the team.
Yeah. Well, and getting very clear about what the organization wants to do, so that we buy into that, we own it. I want to help the organization get to that place, and then really clarify what my role is. What things can I do on a daily basis to help us move forward? Yeah. And then on that quarterly basis, where we have our 555s, our quarterly conversations, and when we are lifting each other up in that all company conversation, this is how we're getting to our goal, and making that so clear that it's that we're all in the same team. Yeah. And we're all moving together. That to me is so exciting, because we're really changing from Jack Welch is just he gets to have the name for it, but that whole notion of the whole reason for business is to return money to the investor, to the shareholder. Yeah. To move from that to recognizing that money will generate for the shareholders when we're all rowing in the same direction, and we all get clear about what contribution we're making to making the world a better place. You're
absolutely right. That feeling of being one company, one team, tried to capture in the book around incentive plan design, so that you're not having sort of pockets of excellence. You have a company of excellence. And so it's bringing it up to the we level versus the me level. And it maybe sounds a little socialistic, but the truth is, if in a business, if we take better care of the we, we can definitely take better care of the me, like in terms of not only incentive plans, but better tools and technology and equipment and capital investments and paying down debt and reducing interest expenses and so forth. The company is going to be able to thrive if everybody's focused on we first and then me. And it sounds a little counterintuitive, but it works. It really works.
And what I find so interesting and so reassuring is that when managers really live by the 5 things about being a great manager and the 5 things about being a great leader, they don't have to add to it. And now I'm going to hold you accountable. Those 10 things create accountability.
Right. Yeah, it's a net effect. Right.
And so often when we talk about accountability as something we have to do to somebody, but it's not that at all. It's what you really do is begin to relate to somebody as a human being involved in a great project.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
And then accountability comes. Or they say, this is not the boat I want to be on.
Yeah.
This is not the direction I want to go. This is really not me. Okay, let me help you find the right boat.
That's where the people analyzer can be so valuable of a tool it's a thinking tool. It's not a grade card. It's a thinking tool for anybody who has LMA to help them have a healthy conversation with their direct report to help them get what they want. And it might not be at that business, but you're absolutely right. So
it's also discernment to help the person get feedback about where they are to learn, wait a minute. Do I have to be in this place just because my father and mother said that I would be good at this?
Right.
What if this is not my unique ability?
Yeah.
Can I really find another place? That to me is where where the people analyzer becomes just a mutual conversation, mutual exploration, and discernment for everybody involved in it.
No, that's great. That's a great way to put it. Love that. Discernment.
Yeah. So what can somebody do to help identify effective, motivating incentives?
So there are a couple of things. I probably should start on what not to do, and it kind of they're sides of the same coin. But probably the first one is, and I've talked to businesses recently that have this, but they've already sort of allocated their bonus for the year as a line item. And that's basically an expense. And so the opposite of that is a self-funded incentive plan. And that's super critical, right? Do we want the incentive plan to pay for itself? And that requires some different behavior on the part of everybody in the business. And if we back up and start to say, let's go back into defining the purpose of an incentive plan. What is the primary purpose of an incentive plan? And, I ask that question when I do speaking engagements and so forth, and lots of different ideas of the purpose. But I try to boil it down, and it ties into what we're doing with EOS in that it's directing human energy. Like an incentive plan, an effective incentive plan should shape human energy or employee behavior toward improving the financial performance of the company. And if all employees are thinking and looking and acting like an owner, when they see like the ones and zeros in the business, they start to say, that's inefficient, that's wasteful, why are we doing that? And they can start to actively participate in finding the money to fund the incentive plan. So it's self-funded from that standpoint, but it requires a different level of thinking on the part of not only the leadership team, but also the group that's really kind of actively finding those dollars and those pennies that are on the floor. So that's the big one, is self-funded. And avoiding it being an expense. A lot of teams have discretionary plans. And so the discretionary meaning they get to the end of the year, they have a little bit of money left over. So they say, well, let's split it up. Out. And again, it's more of a bonus. It's not shaping behavior. I've seen siloed incentive plans, and they're making it too complex. So if we can pull back a little bit and say, how do we simplify this? Let's take it to the highest level, because it's possible that this department earns their incentive and you have to pay it out, and this one earns theirs, but this one missed, and maybe the company's losing money for some other reason, and you're paying out incentives, and it sends this conflicting message, and it's also difficult and time consuming to administer. So there's a lot of negatives to making complex incentive plans. The complexity of it also creates two other problem potentials. One is that it's difficult to explain because it's complex. And so you'll be halfway through your PowerPoint or whatever, and people's eyes are glazing over and they're not even sure what's going on. Right. And the other side of that is, if it's complex, it's difficult for them to trust it. And, how am I getting screwed on this one, is kind of what maybe the head trash that's going on. And so simplify is kind of the biggest one to move toward. And so the book talks all about that, just trying to pick a trigger, minimum threshold of profit that the company has to reach before the incentive plan kicks in, and then arm your workforce with tools and training and resources to actively find the money to incremental profit dollars over that threshold, and they can share in part of that. And so there's some formulas to that. the good thing about the formula-driven plan is that it's kind of objective, and so you're not succumbing to the whims of the Santa Claus effect, which we talk about in the book, where people are kind of well behaved in Q4 on the calendar year because boss is putting the bonus structure together. And so it systemizes it a bit. It's the template you can use every year. Now your threshold might change. The percentage of profits over that threshold that you're putting into the incentive pool might change, but the basic structure of the plan is the same. And then really it's about using scorecards, measurables, level 10 meetings, all the tools, other tension tools that we talk about in the books to help the employees engage in driving incremental profits to fund the plan. So those are some sort of things to avoid, things to make sure to include.
So to what extent is it helpful to have people at various levels participate in creating the plan?
That's interesting. I tend to work just with a couple of leaders on the leadership team who are sort of heavily involved. And it's usually somebody's rock on their side. Hey, we got to bang this out in the next 90 days kind of thing. And so they'll call us and we'll help them design it. We just do it over Zoom. But it's usually working with the finance person, working with integrator, visionary often, and occasionally some other members of the leadership team, but typically not folks that are deeper or further out in the organization. It's not a democracy. We're taking care of the business, taking care of the books, thinking about capital investments and future obligations, taking care of debt and lines of credit and so forth. So there's a lot of thinking that has to go on sort of in the development and design of the plan to keep it small, like Lencioni recommends, and focused on the we comp side of things, collective results, top of the pyramid.
Well, is there a place for the question to be asked to the employees? Does this make sense to you?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the rollout of the plan, like the initial communication of it, is key. What we used to do is roll it out and then kind of like, wait. And now I start to see the support, the ongoing support of these leadership teams to provide them with content that they can teach, just little nuggets of bizlit wisdom every quarter in the state of the company to reinforce it. Talk about, hey, we're on track. Maybe you have a visual thermometer to show progress, or if you're doing the bucket bonus plan, the pails, you show them the pails filling up with profits, and maybe there's payouts going on. Some companies like to pay out quarterly, some pay out when a pail is filled, and others pay out annually. But the key is communicate around it. And so for the employees to understand it is key. And that means it's a two-way conversation, not just a presentation.
Yes, that's what I was looking for, is that this is a conversation that begins with a lot of work that some sophisticated people have done. But ultimately, the entire organization has to agree that, number one, we understand it. It makes sense. Yeah. Number two, we are delighted and excited about the goals, and we are so excited about how we're going to get there. And we're also not only willing, but we enjoy being measured along the way.
Yeah. And that goes into your point about accountable folks like to be accountable. They're great people, right seats, like appreciate the accountability. They appreciate measurables and scorecards and showing up in meetings on time and so forth. And those are the little sort of pieces that build up to a strong foundation of all in on one company, one VTO, one voice, one incentive plan. It's our score at the end of the game. Yeah. Let's drive profit. Now, we all drive it in different ways, and we can set up challenge rocks and so forth to drive departmental improvements on various sort of broken things or inefficient things. But overall, keep it simple, one number, and everybody's driving toward that we scoreboard versus, the me stats.
And isn't it interesting that we start off with, in our early EOS training, we start off with one voice, one team,
the journey
with the leadership team.
Yes.
And ultimately that has to become one voice, one team for the entire company.
It really does. Yeah. When I spell that out, I do mean the company. Like, I know we're talking about the leadership team that early in the EOS journey, but I want them to start to see, like, years down the road. Like, this is one company. We are, we're all rowing, like you said earlier, in the same direction. We're on this boat. We're in different seats, but we're all going to the same place. We're going to climb, mix my metaphors here, but we're climbing that mountain, right? This next 10 years, and let's go. And, you get toward the top, you're about to reach what mountain's next,
Right.
And, it might be a different team, a little bit different team, because that happens. And that's okay. But it is the oneness of it is the critical piece. I totally agree with you.
Yeah. All right. So what would people do if they were excited or intrigued by our conversation today? What would you like them to do? Would you like them to buy a copy of the book? Would you like them to pick up the phone and call you? Is there a place on the web that they can see some video? I don't know. What is it that you would like them to do?
Well, I appreciate that. Reading the book is really the best first step. It's on Audible. I read it on Audible, recorded it. So I kind of go off script here and there. But that's probably the best place to start, because once it's in your head, you start noodling on it. It's not a long book. Maybe if on 1.2 speed, it's probably a 2-hour book or less. But that's a good place to start. We have our website, ProfitWorksLLC.com, kind of has some resources and tools and downloadable exercises from they're printed in the book. The Mindset Scorecard is a great kind of think about your thinking as an entrepreneur. And that's on the web as well, that ProfitWorksLLC.com. It's a quick little scorecard, say, where's your head on these 8 mindsets today, and where do you want it to be in the future? And then you kind of think about what that gap and what types of things would you have to do to fill that gap. And like one of the mindsets is around transparency. If you're a completely closed book type of person and you're not going to share ever anything with anybody, probably isn't for you. And
right.
And so you can go through that whole continuum from closed book to radical transparency. And most people are somewhere in the middle. And so that mindset scorecard will kind of help you think about what do you share today? What have you shared in the past? And, do you believe that if you shared more information with people, they could make better decisions?
Let's back up a little bit. It's, do you believe that your people are assets like machines? Or are they human beings who can solve problems, who can take initiative, who can have hopes, dreams, and all sorts of other things that will propel the boat forward? Absolutely. Yeah. It is I said earlier, really caring about people. Yeah. And we say the same thing about LMA. You have to care about people. It's just not, so that piece of it's very, very critical to the success of something like this. This is, it is, the book's about incentive plans, but it's really not. It's about cultural transformation, really. Right. And that takes time. That's glacial. It's glacial. And so depending on where you're starting, it can take a bit of time, but it depends on what you want as an entrepreneur with the culture and the legacy and so forth that you're building with your organization. And if it's something along those lines, I've heard that the book is very helpful for helping think through that as well. Good. So buy the book, go to ProfitWorks LLC and take a look there. Now, how is this? What is your preferred vehicle for helping? Is it you personally to help? Is it to get EOS implementers to make this part of their toolkit? Or is it to simply inspire individual companies to do this on their own? Well, it's all those things. Absolutely. And I'll go back to the EOS life, because if you think about being compensated appropriately, we know that that's tied to value. And so to the degree it adds value, read the book, self-implement. We put everything in there, right? If you need help, call us. We coach sort of incentive plan design coaches to help you
get the thing designed with confidence and get it launched with confidence. And that's sort of a full implementation. Implementers, EOS implementers, if they're interested in learning more about this, certainly connect with us. Most implementers are like staying in their EOS lane. They're like, I don't want to know about that, which is absolutely.
I don't want to be Colby trained. I'll find a Colby guru. I'll find a ProfitWorks guru. Right.
And the strategic coach phrase, who, not how.
Yes.
We become the who for incentive plan design. And we have an online portal for business literacy. Now I recorded maybe 10 or 12 videos. They're pretty short, 5 to 10 minutes. And it's a course that allows, it's almost train the trainer, but your leadership team to watch the video, download a PowerPoint and some PDFs and actually teach. The income statement, or teach the blank income statement, or teach the difference between cash and profit, or teach challenge rocks, so forth. So it's a library of videos that we're trying to create independence for our teams, like we do with EOS, so that anybody, again, with LMA can go in there and watch video and get armed with the confidence to be able to teach a little aspect of business literacy. So that methodology, call it the masterclass, Profit Link Masterclass, has been very well received, and is people using that, and implementers getting in there and seeing how they might be able to learn how to talk more knowledgeably about this with their clients as well. So those are all great. And we did reduce the case pack of the books. Some people like to have cases of books. It used to be 32 books. I was like, that's a lot of books. So we got it down to 12.
Good.
So that's on the website too. If you want, if you're handing them out, or and we super appreciate it. I get all 79 cents of the book. So
hey, way to go! What a business plan.
Yeah, exactly.
So one of the things that happened to me with one of my clients, the manufacturing client, pumps, and the people on the line are. Many of them didn't even graduate from high school, or they are first generation immigrants. And so a woman came to me and we talked, and her expertise is not training business financial literacy, but training financial literacy.
I love it. Yeah, it's great.
So I introduced her to the HR people at the company. And then together they put together, well, she already had it put together, but they gave the people on the line 3 sessions of financial literacy, teaching them how to open a bank account, teaching them what savings is about, teaching them how to put together a budget, a simple family budget. What an astounding change that made for people. Yeah. On the one hand, the company saying, we care about your financial stability and your financial knowledge. Here's a way to help your family. That coming from the company was unexpected, but wildly received.
Appreciated.
And then secondly, teaching them how to take care of their finances better. And I just cannot even imagine the quality of the relationship that was deepened by that offer and by that process.
Well, a couple of thoughts on that, Will. One is that to the degree the employee's personal life is stable, and they're going to be a much better employee. So there's such a win-win there in a way.
Yes.
The respect it shows, the interest, the caring that we've talked about that it shows. The other piece that I think is really congruent here is that when you think about teaching business finance to employees, a lot of times like, well, hey, finance seat, I need you to go out there and they'll maybe overcomplicate it over the heads and not even sort of aware the audience response. So I've found that one of the best ways to teach business finance is to start with household finance. And so it's a very simple, sort of group activity, but you start with, let's pretend you take home, $3,000 a month and you spend your bills in this way and you have $60 left over or something. And then, so let's say you decide you're not happy with that. And so you're still got the $3,000 at the top per month, but you decide to cut your phone bill and you turn off the cable and you go out to eat less often and you shop at Sam's Club instead of Whole Foods, and so forth. And you start to see, well, now there's $300, the bottom line. And so what could you do with that? Well, you could start a vacation fund. Maybe that's our self-funded incentive plan. So we're thinking about, especially in a manufacturing environment like you're describing, all the money, there's about 8% of profits that are just falling through the cracks in most businesses. To a degree, we can kind of wake folks up and shine the light in all the corners. We can find that money and it becomes that self-funded incentive plan again. So, but it's a more lower risk way, lower sort of fear way to start to get into something that really, as you and I both know, it's not rocket science. There is math, there are zeros and things like that, but letting them sort of enter into the conversation in a more gradual way starts to open up their eyes, and then get them in small groups and say, so let's go into the business. Like, we're doing 6% profit, and we really should be doing 10. Like, what do you guys see? Where's the money falling through the cracks? And start, and if to the degree we can seal up some of these cracks, we start to fund that incentive plan. And it becomes this really fun, like you said, two-way conversation. Where we're tapping into this untapped potential that's out there. Smart people, good people, but just haven't presented or created a forum for them to really share those ideas.
And I think what we're doing is we are saying you have agency.
Yes.
You can contribute. You can make things happen in your family and in the business. We can work together because you have some unique abilities to bring.
Yeah.
As do I, as do the rest of us. And as we contribute and learn how to communicate and learn how to get focused and the power of focus on our goals, long-term, short-term, medium-term, as we get focused on that and we can monitor it, measure it, celebrate it, or make changes to get there.
Yeah.
What we're really communicating is not only do you have value, you can create value.
Oh, I love it. You're absolutely right. And I think of Dan Pink's book, Drive. Because agency is that feeling of control. Like you have a goal out there, a mountain you want to climb, and you have a sense of control and you have pathways up that.
That's right.
And so there's hope, right? And so that's that sense of autonomy, mastery, unique ability, perhaps, strategic coach, and purpose. The sense of that intrinsic, that drive that is more than just the money. It's like adding value and changing lives, but creating your future. And so I love that piece of it. And if you do read Drive, Dan's got a lot of data on this around the world of incentives and motivation. And so it's really fascinating for me as sort of a psychology, guy to read all different views into the black box that we are.
Right. That's super. This has been a great conversation, Alex. I am so glad that we took the time to do this.
Me too. Well, thank you for inviting me on. I really appreciate it. It's great to share.
Super.
And hopefully I've inspired some folks too.
Well, of course. This is not going away. It's like every other video. It sits up there forever. So be careful what you say.
That's right. Very cautious. And I've been told that more than once.
Well, so Alex, before we leave, what are you excited about in the next 6 months?
So much. Let's see. So I mentioned to you, we've got empty nests going on at home. So the kids are going to school and getting jobs. And so, we're trying to figure out, Christina and I, what future we want to create together. That's a big one. And secondly, on the business side, we've got the EOS conference, which is out there in 23, which is in Indianapolis. And it's about 50% sold out. So it'll be sold out by the end of the year, but I'm the MC for that. And that's been just a passion, a time for other passions, kind of labor of love since Tom and I founded that back in, 17. And so that is going to be a lot of fun with leadership teams, just like-minded community of folks, core values aligned, hanging out and learning and teaching. And so I'm very excited about that. And I'd say one other thing is a family trip. My mom, who's 83, she's going to kill me if she watches this. I don't think she'll watch it, but anyway, Mom, is taking us to Africa. So we're going to go on. Never been there. Yeah.
Oh, right.
So that'll be a lot of fun.
Excellent. Wonderful.
So my brothers and their families and mine. So that'll be pretty exciting.
Excellent. Well, it's just wonderful to be with you. And this is a great contribution to people who, when you recognize it, when we have something that we want to accomplish, the most important thing is having the will to do it, because when you got the will, there's a way. And what we know is that a major contribution to retaining your people, your great people, and attracting new great people is broadcasting that your commitment as a company is for everyone to get to the place where they're only doing what they love doing with people that they love, that you're clearly identifying how not only your company's making a great contribution and changing the world for a better place, but everybody in that organization is playing their part in it, and everyone is being compensated appropriately. And this whole conversation about incentives and how all of that plays in, get everybody rowing in the same direction. And then finally, we're not working 90 hours a week. Everybody has plenty of time for their other passions and their family. That's what this is all about. So thanks so much for contributing, Alex, to the conversation.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it. And thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
You have been listening to Where There's a Will, There's a Way with Will Crist. If anything resonated with you, you can find tools to help you and your leadership team create a great life for everyone in your company at willcrist.com. Come and join the conversation at willcrist.com.